everyone. Welcome to the GuitOrigins podcast, powered by AIMusicLessons.com, the site that teaches you guitar. I'm your host, Greg Burlett, and today I am so excited to be speaking with Algie Powers. She's been called TikTok's grandma, but don't let her white hair deceive you. She's playing tunes like Nirvana and 21 Pilots and just keeping it fresh. The thing that I really respect about Algie is her philosophy on life and guitar and how guitar fits in life. And also, she just is the essence of not being afraid to follow your dreams regardless of what your age is. So with that being said, let's go.
AI Music Lessons presents Algie Powers.
Everything will be okay.
When did you pick up guitar?
I picked up a guitar when I was about 14 or 15. By that point, I was singing all the time. Not like singing, but I was always harmonizing. Like that was my thing. I could just always pick out a harmony, and I always, come up to my friends and go like, "Here, play that, sing this part and don't change when I do something different. You got to hear whether this is so cool. Listen to this, and not everybody can do that. They kind of go do whatever you're singing." So I was always singing harmony. And then my sister had a boyfriend, and they used to like do folk music and kind of play and sing along and sing out at places. And he left his guitar at my house one time. I guess he got a new one. So he left the old one, and he taught me two chords. He taught me a D and a G. Should I show you?
Yeah, do it.
It was this. He taught me how to play a D and then a simplified G, just like the one. He said, don't play these bottom ones, just kind of play that.
Right.
And that song was, "My horses ain't hungry. They won't eat your hay. So fare thee well, darling. I'm going away." And, of course, all the other verses. And so then he left me with this guitar. And it was like there I was, just, by the time I, had those two figured out, I'm like, but wait a minute, what if I want to sing, what do I do? I want to hear, So now what? So then I sat there and I just started, okay. And I painstakingly went through every note and found all the chords, like the major ones, and I wrote them down. I thought I invented them. I had no idea.
That's amazing.
Had so names good. Already. They've been around forever. And so that's kind of how I learned. I just taught myself all the different chords, and I was off and running because I needed something to play while I sang.
Right. So it was very vocal influence. Like you were singing something and then trying to figure out something that could harmonize with your voice on the guitar.
Yeah. What do I play when I'm singing that part of the song? So I never sat around and just played guitar for the sake of playing. It was always to play along with me singing something. And
is that the guitar?
No,
First guitar?
The original guitar. It was an old harmony. It was ancient, and I had it for a long time. This is my little Martin. And an interesting thing, I had a Guild. My first real kind of goodish guitar was a Paul Simon Guild. And, I remember it was like several $100s, or maybe $500 at the time, which seemed like it was a lot of money back then in the 70s. And I never thought I played really well. I just always considered that I just don't play well. I'm okay. And then one day, years later, decades later, someone lets me play their Martin. And it was like, wait a minute. I actually know how to play. I actually it sounds pretty good, because the other one was just cheap enough. I'm not putting back down the Paul Simon Guild, but for me, it was like hard to press, or maybe the action was off. All I know is that I thought I didn't play well. So when people, ask me, what kind of guitar would you recommend? I'm like, just don't get the cheapest thing, because it's never going to sound good and you're going to think you suck. You really got to get some good.
It's a really personal relationship between you and a guitar. And ultimately it comes down to what you think sounds good.
Exactly.
And you have to go and you have to put it in your hands. And even if you're a beginner and you don't necessarily know how to play anything that would blow someone's socks off at Guitar Center or along McQuaid, you have to go and just put it in your hand and strum it
Yes.
and feel your fingers on the strings and listen to it. And if it gives you goosebumps, then that's the one.
That is so true. That's what they say at the guitar store. It's like, well, what do you recommend? They're like, you got to just touch everyone, go through them all. And when I first discovered I needed a better guitar and I started looking, I ended up coming home with a big Martin, the dreadnought size.
Yeah.
And it sounded amazing. And the store was like, this is the one. But then it hurt my body. I couldn't wrap myself around
because the body
it.
was so large.
Yeah, it was like I couldn't see over it. And it would just hurt. I couldn't nestle into it. So then I took it back and they let me return it and I got this little one because I'm small framed,
Nice.
So it's like.
So is Martin your favorite guitar then?
I think Taylor sure has a beautiful sound too. I have a little Taylor mini that I bought when I was going to travel to visit my son in England. And I thought I needed my guitar, but I'm not carrying a 20-pound case to the airport. So I went and bought myself a little Taylor mini and it sounds amazing. But right now I lent it out to my nephew. So, but it's cute. It's tiny. It sounds good. So I think Taylor and Martin are the two that I'm familiar with. I really don't know any others to give any kind of feedback on them.
Right. When you were 14 and it was your sister's boyfriend that left you a guitar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you have issues playing with it? Were you, because you were only 14, you probably weren't, full-sized hands yet. And did you have an issue actually forming chords or, playing it at that time?
No, I don't remember any problems. I think it's probably on the small side. I don't remember getting frustrated or not. It wasn't like it was forced on me, you got to practice now. It really was just I couldn't keep my hands off of it, kind of.
Right. It was there and it was intriguing.
It was intriguing. And then and then he taught me a little picking thing. And to this day, that's kind of what I use. It was this little thing that goes like this. Wait. Down. Let me see if I could does that make sense?
Yeah.
Kind of dump, dump, down, and then bump, bump, bump. You go up and then you come back down.
Yeah.
And anyway, it was some little pattern. And it's I got kind of better at it. And it's funny how it's hard to, right now, if I were to be trying to talk to you and do this at the same time, it's really difficult. But when you're singing in rhythm and you're kind of singing along, all of a sudden you can do it, So it's not that hard to play and sing at the same time. I don't think, because there's some kind of a rhythmic connection when you're singing.
I always found it so hard to sing and play at the same time, especially with chords. It was always okay with me. I could strum out the chords and sing along, and I'd be cool with it. It was when I started getting into finger picking and kind of more crazy finger picking patterns. Even now, it was probably about 3 weeks ago. I picked up. I was listening to a lot of Fleetwood Mac, and there's a song "Landslide" that
Landslide.
Absolutely love "Landslide" by Fleetwood. Absolutely love it. It's so good, and just the vocal melody, the finger picking part. In order to actually sing along with that, I needed to finger pick the guitar for probably 3 hours just to get it into muscle memory so that I could even sing along with it. But I don't know if I'm an anomaly. My brain doesn't get it, or
maybe it is a muscle. Maybe since I've been doing this for 50 years, it's that's kind of and that's my reason that I can maybe do it. I'm sitting there going, "Oh, it's easy," but it's probably not.
Yeah.
But I've been doing it so long.
Do you have any tips for people that are trying to sing along with their guitars, other than I've been doing it for 50 years?
It's just practice. That's really, like you said, it took you 3 hours to just get it. Because there's some, I do TikTok songs every day. I try to do one, and you just have to get you just have to do it over and over and over, and just get familiar with it. And sometimes it's the timing of the lyrics are kind of tricky, and I just have to listen to it and keep doing it. So it's really just a repetitive practice thing. And I don't think it's I think a little bit, my advice would be a little bit every day goes a long way. Oh, I just made that up. A little bit every day goes a long way, instead of trying to do once a week for an hour, even 5 minutes a day really makes a huge difference. I had to learn I didn't have to, but they kept asking me to do Blackbird. And I'm like, I don't know Blackbird. I never learned it. Like, how did I never learn Blackbird? That's like the standard guitar thing. I'm like, maybe I should try. And it took me like 3 weeks to like sit there and like practice it. And even now I get lost because it's a lot of like memory of like, where you're going. But
this is the Beatles song Blackbird, right? Like Blackbird singing in the dead of night.
That one?
Right.
And then you had to sing at the same time. So that was hard. Then I had to learn that. And then I had to try to sing at the same time. But it really is just sitting down and putting in the time. There's no shortcut. I don't think. Definitely.
Because that riff, like, not only is it finger picking, but you're moving like way up the fretboard.
Oh yeah. You got to just memorize this dance. It's like your fingers are dancing and it's a choreography. And it's not like I don't even know what chords I'm going to, but I just had to, do it enough to remember that I go here and then there and then here and then back here, and then try to sing at the same time. Tricky.
When you're singing along with the same time, I find this fascinating that you're just like, I just do it. But just trying to break it down, and I guess reflecting on some techniques that I've done in the past. If it's a more complicated finger picking riff that you're kind of going through, do you ever substitute in the chords and just kind of strum with the rhythm so that you can sing along, or do you just go all in hard mode and just tackle it?
Sometimes you have to just stop playing. Like if you're going, all of a sudden you're about to get lost. You just like stop and just keep singing and then quickly pick it up. Like definitely you can lose your way, trying to sing and play at the same time. And if it's like some performances on the line and you're up in front of people, just kind of just miss a chord or two, and keep singing,
What is it specifically about TikTok that drew you to TikTok? Because TikTok, the app is primarily gauged towards Gen Zs, and that's obviously not your age demographic, right? So
why all these young kids into this? So I start keeping a journal of my favorite comments, and this will put in a nutshell. Because I figure one day this is all going to be gone, and I'm going to have dementia. I'm not going to remember anything, and so I'm going to go back and read some of these. But listen to this. It says, one of my favorite ones right here. Seeing cool, creative older people like this makes me less scared of growing up.
Oh, that's awesome.
And listen to this one. This helped me so much. I was just having a panic attack. One of my biggest phobias is growing old, but this made me feel so safe. Why did this make me cry? Shut my eyes and suddenly felt like I was a child again in a safe place. So I don't know. It's like maybe, older people, because there was even a Wall Street Journal article that they kind of mentioned me in a while back, and it was talking about why these young kids were like looking up to older people, like older people, because somehow it was comforting for them, and I don't understand it myself.
So I had a next door neighbor when I was growing up, and she was quite a bit older than me. Like she was my grandmother's age, and we called her Nana. She was like our grandmother, and she insisted that everyone in the neighborhood call her Nana, and she was like the Nana of the neighborhood. And whenever you felt like you were in trouble, that was a safe haven. You knew you could go there. Whenever you needed someone to talk to, you could go over there. You could talk to her. She gave you cookies. She would just take care of you. And she was so vibrant and just had so many different things going on and just taught you about the world.
Wow.
And to some extent, you're kind of like the Nana of TikTok.
One of my mean comments is like, can you be my grandma? I get like, can you be my grandma? Could you adopt me? Like constantly. So that's definitely it.
Yes, there's an age differential, but there's so many points of approachability with who you are, which I think is really cool. And I think that's, at least in my eyes, why I think you've garnered a lot of following on TikTok, which is cool.
Well, that's interesting to think that I don't know where I get this youthfulness business. I don't even understand it. I don't know. In my head, I'm still like 14 or something. And
what do you think? What do you think life would be like if you had TikTok back then, like back in the 70s when you were learning guitar or growing up?
I can't even imagine. That's like a big imagination project.
It is.
It's like having the internet back then. I guess we'd all had our nose down in our phones.
Right.
Would we have been as creative? I'm going to pass on this question. That's one of those you got to get high and talk about it. And I don't get high anymore. I got to stop getting high 45 years ago. I turned into a Mormon. I got converted to Mormonism when I was 25. And so I was a little pothead, having those kind of discussions. That would have been really fun to talk about for 2 hours. But that just kind of blew my mind even trying to think about it.
What about like thinking back to how music and I guess just culture and lifestyle was back when you were a child versus now? And you kind of peeked into how Gen Zs interpret the world through TikTok and reading comments. What do you think are kind of the big societal changes in music and culture?
Well, when I was like 14, there were the hippies that I looked up to. I was a little bit too young to be a real hippie, but you had 1968, Vietnam War, free love and all that. So that was all happening. And the music was definitely, reflecting those messages. But I don't know. Now the way the world seems to be like literally falling apart in front of everybody's eyes. That's got to be hard for these kids, with just everything, from global warming to politics to I don't know what to say, but
yeah. Well, there were certainly challenges back then as well, like in the 60s and 70s, like you mentioned, the Vietnam War era, and the idea of peace and music being a vehicle to talk about peace and stopping war. Obviously, there was a lot of people that disagreed with the Vietnam War and whether we should be sending soldiers over there. So really, like even John Lennon, like speaking about peace and anti-war movement and everything like that. There's never any shortages of controversial or bad things going on in the world at any given time.
True. I was never very politically minded back then. I mean, I didn't really pay attention. I didn't have a big opinion. I was just loving melodies and beautiful voices, and I was drawn to Joni Mitchell. So,
what about John Lennon? Because I've watched a lot of documentaries on John Lennon, and what were your thoughts on him growing up, and did he make a big impact on you as an artist?
Well, I'll tell you the truth. He was my least favorite Beatle. Don't tell the people that I did the John Lennon thing for. They sent me a John Lennon album, and I'm like, okay, I'll do one of the songs. But like, I love the Beatles. That was like the first music that I became aware of. Like, I remember my sister, like, she was like, "There's this group. It's like," and I remember like the Bug, some kind of bug name, and what like listen for them, and let's try to record it. We had like an old reel to reel that my dad had, and like we record things from the radio. And she's like, try to get the one with the bugs. And so that was like the first, like, when I was first being exposed to music, as a 11-year-old, 12-year-old or something. And so I love the Beatles, and of course they were at Sullivan, and we all watched, and I was totally in love with George Harrison. He was like the cutest thing. And even Paul McCartney was like, looks like a chipmunk. He's not that cute. Like, George is cuter. So it was all about who was cuter. Like, I kind of do that now. It's like, there's some political thing like, he's more handsome, I'll vote for him. So that's really a bad thing. So, but then John, his voice wasn't, as I thought, the other guys had better voices. And then when he went off the Yoko and all of a sudden, that was going on, it was like, I never took any of that seriously. I didn't pay attention. I was just sorry that they broke up. It was like 70s and they broke up, and it was like, what? And then when they did their solo stuff, I was, immediately ran out and got Paul's album, but it was never quite, like the Beatles, them all separately never was that lemonade mix, that was magical.
I agree.
That was the Beatles.
So what was it about George Harrison that you were like, because George was a really good guitar player?
Well, I didn't notice that. I was just liked his face. I
liked his face.
Listen, I have a theory that people are attracted to people with their nose shape. I mean, I'm carrying this thing around until I die, And I guess if you compare it, I probably had his nose was closest to mine. I didn't realize it at the time, but now when I think about it, like that's probably why I like George.
That was really like the British invasion of music, and specifically rock, and also in the kind of later 70s. Was the punk invasion, punk rock coming in Sex Pistols and Ramones and everything kind of coming west from Britain. Were you aware of that movement, and did you kind of see it change what people were listening to?
No, I absolutely did not get into any of that punk stuff. I had the Beatles, all that, Donovan, the Beatles, Rolling Stones. I even I had like a brother-in-law who loved the Rolling Stones. We used to have arguments who was better, the Beatles or the Rolling Stones. That was like a thing. Oh, and then I was like so young and I was into the Monkees. I'm like, the Monkees are the best. And they're like, go away. You can't be part of this conversation. You cannot compare the Monkees with any of these.
What about your parents immigrated in from Lithuania. At that time, was Lithuania still under control from the Soviet Union, or
Yes.
was it independent at that time?
Well, when they ran away, there was this period where Germany had occupied it during the end of the war. And then when Germany was losing and they retreated, nobody was occupying it. And that's when they took off. They had like 2 weeks to pack up and leave with their covered wagons and milk cow attached to the back. And then after that, the Soviet Union came back, and half of the brothers got left behind and had to live throughout their lives, being, occupied by the Soviets.
Right. And so the reason I asked that question is because the Soviets are kind of famous for censoring music. I didn't
realize that.
Yeah, they.
Oh, you're right. That girl band that you went to jail or something.
Yeah, well, there's several instances of that, and then there's a lot of conspiracy theories with U.S. Putting the Scorpions, the Wind of Change song, and getting that into Russia to influence the youth, and just a bunch of different things. And I was wondering if your parents ever mentioned that as we weren't allowed to listen to this music when we were back home or anything like that.
No, I never heard that.
No.
But it's interesting that they were talking about Russia, because when I did Stressed Out, that's my number one most viewed of all my videos down there. And it's because I guess 21 Pilots is really popular in Russia. And
I didn't
all
realize
these
that.
Russians came out of the woodwork when I did Stressed Out. And then they started asking, and then suddenly I'm translating Russian comments, and they're all really nice because I have my rude filter turned on, so I don't even see the bad comments. Sorry, right. I don't want to see them. I'm sure they're there. I don't need to see them anyway. So they're asking for things, and they started requesting this one song. I kept hearing this, this Katyusha, and it's some sort of army, like the Red Army war song. It was the soldiers. It's about. Anyways, and I didn't know what it was about, but I found a website that said, learn Russian in song. And it was teaching this Katyusha song. So I went and learned it, and I had to learn it syllable by syllable. I'll show it to you. It's wild. But it's
cool.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
I even had a hashtag that said, I'm not a Russian spy when I uploaded it. But then I wrote it out in Lithuanian so I could learn every syllable. And they think I'm Russian when I do this. Расцветали яблони и груши, поплыли туманы над рекой. Выходила над рекой Катюша, над высокий берег, над крутой. So I did that one.
That's awesome.
And then all of a sudden it's all the comments are in Russian.
I think at the end of the day, music really unites all of us. You can play that Russian army song and it lights up someone in Russia's face. And it doesn't matter where you're from.
It's to hear another country sing our songs, it really meant something to them. Like you said, it's almost like a united, it's bringing everybody together. We're all so much more the same than we are different, no matter where we're from.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said that you gathered kind of a large Russian crowd from that 21 Pilots song, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So you as an older woman kind of tapping into songs that Gen Zs and millennials are into, like 21 Pilots, Stressed Out, for example. Whereas kind of most people in your generation just kind of, I think, just kind of reject newer music. and stick to, stuff that was playing, like rock music that was playing in the 70s and 80s, and just like, no, that's what I listen to. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that they reject newer music?
I don't know what their problem is, but I've always loved new music. I mean, as a songwriter, because I'm a songwriter too. And it's like they tell you in these songwriting workshops, you have to know what's out there. You have to listen to music all the time. And there's so much good music out there. And I've always loved, like my favorite thing is hearing something new that instantly makes me like grab my phone and Shazam it and then put it in some little playlist, because it's so exciting to hear new music. That's great. And I don't really have a certain genre that I only like. It's all over the place. So when I started doing this, I already I listen to the radio every day. So every day, at least an hour, I'll see what they're playing for the, how they play the same thing over and over. I'll get a gist of what's new, and I could, name everybody that's usually out there, and not only was it like 21 Pilots is already kind of old, but but like you should see my followers of One Direction, like the Harry Styles and those guys. There's like
I saw your Harry Styles
One
songs,
Direction, and Taylor Swift has, a lot of fans. And so, they're, by them giving me requests, it's like, do this. Like I started getting a lot of Harry Styles requests. So I started listening and I loved it, and of course I have to pick out something I like. Like when I do a song, I have to it has to almost like bring me to tears. Like I have to listen to a song that makes me cry. I'm like, okay, I'll do that one because it just made me cry, So, I love new music, and I don't know why older people don't. I mean, you'll never find me with an oldie station on my radio button or anything. I don't have any oldies playlists. I mean, I love them when they come around, but I just love new stuff so much.
That's awesome. What are your thoughts on kind of how consumption of music has changed over the years? Because back in the day, you would play a record and you would go out and buy a record, and now it's all streaming platforms, and things have obviously changed over the years
very much.
With labels, they would kind of be the musical curators, going out there and signing bands and essentially determining what people listen to and what's worthy of being listened to. And now, being an indie artist, you can just put out your music, and it's up to the world to decide whether to listen to you or not. So how has that changed your methodology for finding new music?
What I like to do to find new music, besides just the radio, of course, those are still like the labels playing, what they want to play. Right. I love, having a Pandora station. I'm into Gregory Alan Isakov, and I have the Pandora station.
I love Gregory Alan Isakov. Oh my goodness, I love him.
But the fact that, it kind of made us all think like, oh, now anybody can get discovered. But it's overwhelming when you think of how much is out there. Like there's so much talent out there, and everybody's trying to get their stuff out there. I don't even know. I guess there are ways to, like, when you come out with something independently, because I have my original music on Spotify and Apple Music. I made an album 20 years ago, and I kept adding to it. But I'm not focusing on that. You think that, well, you got all these followers on TikTok. Why don't you do, more originals, start writing new stuff, and they'll go listen to it. But I have no motivation to do that for some reason. It was like back, like when I was young, like it wasn't like I was this angsty little songwriter trying to, say something. And I was just playing along and singing to things. And when I first had my first experience to record something professionally, I got on someone's album here in Salt Lake. It was like, it blew my mind to be in a studio and to like have that whole thing happen. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I want to record music. They're like, well, you better start writing. I'm like, well, I don't write music. Well, have you ever tried? I'm like, no, I'm 30 years old. I've never written a song. Well, why don't you see if you can do it? So I started writing when I was in my 30s. And I did. I can sound and write a song if I really have to, but it doesn't like compel me. It's not like I have to do it to, be creative. And when TikTok started, and I thought, well, this will be my audience to listen to my originals. I haven't had any like real inclination to start writing a lot. I'm just so happy that I get to sing the songs they love, because I'm like, they're hearing what they love in a different voice, and they're I'm feeling like I get to like, share that gift with them. So, do we ever answer your question? I know that like when I go to these songwriter things, these songwriters talk about how back in the day they would write a hit song and they could buy a house. And today they write a
Right.
hit song and they hardly get anything for it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The music
So
industry has certainly changed in how artists make money. That's for sure. That's really interesting, kind of hopping back to what it took to get recognized back then, where you're recording demos and you have to call this person and send your tape to this person who then sends it to that person, then you get a gig because of that, and it's all kind of intertwined and very physical, like you're providing someone a demo tape.
right,
Whereas
you're not
today,
like sending a link, they can
exactly,
record
and
it.
today you're using TikTok as a vehicle to give people your demos, essentially. Like it's substantially changed. The whole paradigm of you distributing your music to the world is completely different.
It is completely
Um,
different.
and now you have so many followers on TikTok. I think like over 500,000 or 600,000, something like that.
Something like that. It goes up and down. Like 650 is kind of hovering around that.
Right. So what kind of tips do you have? Like what do you think that you did well on TikTok that really got you that viewership?
I think it helped that I was older and not a threat. You know what I mean? Like someone younger
Yeah.
that could sing instead of like looking and going, how we get like jealous of each other? Like when we want to have something happen and someone else is good. And like, oh, they're better than me, or, that whole stupid thing we do. But since I'm
Yeah.
already this older person, there's like there's no competition there. So they kind of feel safe, and then of course they're feeling
Right.
that safe thing. I guess my voice is comforting and sounds good enough for them to kind of calm them down and make them feel like they're a little kid, nestled in their grandmother's bosom again or something. So I think it's probably the age. If I was younger trying to do this, I don't know if I would be doing as well. I have no idea, because I see some amazing people that sing like off the charts, and I'm like, why are their numbers not going higher? I don't get it. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Like you mentioned your age, like certainly the juxtaposition of someone that's older singing a 21 Pilots song is just cool.
That's true.
By its nature, right?
And they say that's really cool to hear someone from my generation sing their song. It's like it validates them. Kind of like how my parents
Right.
didn't like the Beatles. It's like I kept trying to convince them how great they were. Like, listen to this one. You love this one. They're like, So I think it's cool when someone older likes a younger person's song. Do you think? I mean, not that I'm doing it on purpose, but that's probably unusual because they don't get that usually.
What is your advice to older people that think that either they're scared to try something new and hop in and do it? And what do you say to people that say, "Oh, I'm too old, I can't pick up guitar"?
Well, I'd say I never too old for anything. I mean, maybe I need to tell myself that. Here, I'm sitting here going, well, I'm never going to be signed by a label. Maybe something could still happen for me. Maybe
That's
I'll be
why I asked that
here.
question.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm limiting myself. It's very easy to tell yourself it's too late. So I don't really have a good answer. I need it myself. So when you find somebody that gives a good answer, let me know what it is. So I got young friends too. My friends are always young too. I don't know why I don't relate to people. I don't relate to people my age. It's kind of a strange thing. I don't, because I don't ever like have anything in common with everybody that just wants to sit around and talk about health issues. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm kind of, I don't know what to say. I love being around younger people. I feel comfortable. I guess I'm still, I got some sort of cool thing going on that they don't mind being with me,
Kind of reflecting back on your journey, what specifically is it about guitar that stuck with you for so many years?
Yeah, it's like I get to, I mean, it's just a beautiful instrument to sing with. And I have a piano, but I kind of like to figure things out on the piano. I like to like work out melodies or like come up with what chord I'm playing if I can recognize it on the piano. Whereas when I play, it's like when I want to like flow and just kind of have something come to me, it's like, it's nice to just start losing it, on the guitar is a beautiful instrument to just kind of flow with.
Right.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
So, yeah. Do you ever write songs with a piano instead of guitar? And what's the difference between piano and guitar for you?
Well, for me, the biggest difference is when I come up to a keyboard, it's like I'll just like randomly put my hands on any key combination because it's like it's all the same, and I'll hear like really interesting things when I do that. It's like, oh, that's nice. What's this? Whereas when I play guitar, I have my certain like little shapes I do with my hands. I don't just like suddenly make a brand new shape and play it, because I don't. I just go to my things, But on the piano, I can like come up with any shape and like make chords that I've never heard before, So I do love to like just kind of like lose myself on the piano too and just start picking things out, and like you can like hear where the melody wants to go and you could find it quickly. And then I like analyze what chord I'm playing, and then I bring it on the guitar, and then I have my chords, and then I could start like going with and come up with lyrics because I'm playing it and I'm letting the words start coming to me.
Right. That kind of sounds like at the top of the show, we were talking about when you were 14 and you had your first guitar kicking around and you were just kind of singing notes and then trying to figure out like chords to kind of play with it, but you weren't constrained by any knowledge, right? Like you didn't know that there was this chord shape and we kind of have to stick to that or this or that. And it kind of sounds like that same methodology for piano. Yeah,
definitely. You're not constrained. And what I didn't realize at the time when I was first learning guitar, and I just learned it like probably only 10 years ago, was that whole thing that the chords like have sets. Like I didn't realize they kind of come in like little sets, and you play these like, when you the 1, 4, 5, 6, that whole thing I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. I mean, as music theory, like you have your, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the chord that you make out of 1, that's number 1. And then in 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever chord that is, 4, 5, and you take the 1, the 4, 5, 6, and those are the chords that you use in a song, like in all kinds of combinations and shapes and lengths and orders. But it's very much like formulaic, and I had no idea. And so when I learned that, it's like I could almost play anything because someone will say, "Can you play this?" And I'll kind of quickly, figure out what key, and then hurry up and go A, B, C. So I play A, B, C, D, E, F. So A, D. There it is. There's 1, 4, 5, 6, and now I can play that song. Does that make sense? Cool. I didn't know any of this because I had to like someone was teaching open tuning, and they just kind of bred it on the 1, 4, 5, 6. And they're like, well, that's you use those to make. And I'm like, what? All this time I just thought there was no pattern, and you have to just memorize chords. Right. It's hard.
So that kind of came later on in your guitar journey. Like you figured out like a little bit of theory, and then it kind of unlocked that key in your head about like why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Exactly. Yeah. And when I wrote my first album and we hired a guitar player to play like some lead parts, I didn't even have like a lead sheet. I don't even know what chords I was playing. It's like I just showed him the demo. Like, I don't know what chords these are. I'm like, what? Like, and because I was playing it on the keyboard. I was like just playing stuff on the piano. I wasn't playing guitar. And he goes, well, maybe it's good that you don't know what you're doing. Because if you had this theory and you would be like constrained, like, well, I have to do it like this, and instead of just whatever like I hear in my head,
Yeah. Do you think that if you were classically trained from the get-go, that you would have written songs differently or kind of approached music differently, or just you think it would have stifled your creativity at all?
I'd say maybe. I don't want to discourage anyone from training, Right. Maybe it would have made me even like go outside the box more, because maybe, like they say, when you learn the rules, then you get to break them. Like in art, I'm an artist and I can draw, and I learned, the basics in school. And then, you kind of learn the basics, and then you can start breaking those rules. But if you never learn the basics, then maybe you'll never get anywhere with it. So maybe I would have even gone further if I had been trained,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I love that. We have to learn the rules so we can break them. That's great.
Yeah.
That's cool that you still view guitar as, something that there's something to learn there for you, even though you've been doing it for 50 some years.
Well, I
right?
absolutely don't even know why you're talking to me because I don't consider myself a guitarist at all. It's like, oh my God.
You are a guitarist.
Talk about guitar playing. I don't play that well. I mean, for 50 years, I should be going, like all that, but I've never, I can't. I've never, took the time. I just was always learning something to sing to.
I think that's such a common misconception with guitar players, and why people get afraid to pick something up or play for other people, because they say, okay, well, I've been playing guitar for 10 years, and they're like, okay, play me something. And you're immediately put on the spot. Like, am I supposed to shred a solo right now? Am I supposed to like you're really put on the spot. And I don't think that guitar needs to be like that.
True.
Guitar should be, like for you, it's the harmony of guitar in your voice, and it's really a harmonizer for you singing.
Yeah.
And to you, that's the value of guitar,
exactly.
not shredding a crazy solo for someone else. So I think with any instrument, it's what joy do you get out of it, and not kind of contextualizing it through someone else's perceptions of what they think guitar should be. Like you're shredding a metal solo or something like that. So I would say, like, definitely don't be discouraged by that at all.
My when my son was growing up, he had a young friend, and I guess I would encourage him to pick up the guitar, and he started learning it, and he got really good, and he was like doing stuff as fast as he could, and then he got discouraged that he would never be the fastest guitar player, and he stopped. And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? It's like it's the the solos that I love when I hear a guitar solo is like those soulful, like kind of like Dire Straits type of, you know what I mean? Like these beautiful melodic slow things. You don't have to just be fast, So there's pressure to like think you got to be the best, but everybody's so different, and we're all unique. And no matter what you do, it's going to be you.
Do you ever feel like sometime in that 50-year journey of you playing and singing that you kind of lost your passion for it? And what did you do to get it back?
Well, when I get older, and the whole idea, like there were years when I thought for sure I was going to be on a tour bus one day. Like I'd see a tour bus go by and I would feel it. Like I'd like, I'd be on that one. And then little by little, I start, I was like 35 when someone told me I was too old already. Like, well, you're too old to really get in the music business because it's a young thing. And unless you want to do country music. And I'm like, so then once I'm in my 60s, it's like, well, I guess it's over, So, and I didn't, I still kind of had gigs. Like the last thing I had this, the last gig I had before COVID hit, we had this whole thing where we'd go to old folks' homes. And we would like play an hour's worth of music to these little old ladies and guys sitting there. And we would have so much fun because she played bass and she sang. We could like screw up as much as we wanted. We don't have to worry about like being perfect. They appreciated everything. We just had so much fun. And so, but it was like the thought of like making it in the music industry kind of was discouraging. And it's like, well, and I even took the songwriting course that made us write a song a week. The whole idea was sit down. It was called I Heart Songwriting. It's this lady in Australia, and I signed up for it. And for 10 weeks straight, we had to sit down for an hour and write something, just anything. Just sit down and do it. Show up and come up with something and upload it, and we'll all listen to it. Your little group. Mm-hmm. And I was coming up with a song a week. I was like, I can write more often than one song a year, because at the time I was coming up with one song a year. That was my average. Right. And now I'm coming up with one song a week. But like I have no one to listen to it. And so it was kind of discouraging. And I'm like, I guess I'm done. But then TikTok came along. And that's like, just like, I've never played this much. I've never sang this much. My fingers have never had calluses that were this good. They're even like big, like my finger, look, it's even like taller. Like it has anyway, I've never been,
you've adapted.
I've never been in this good shape, vocally and guitar wise. So this is me bringing, being passionate once again about singing and playing.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
That's so good to hear. Do you feel that, like, do you still practice today?
Practice?
Yeah. Or do you just play songs?
Oh, to me, the playing is the practice. Like when I have to learn something new, like 'cause every day I kind of learn a new song, and I have to like, I'll even go, what is this chord? I've never done this before. All of a sudden make a new shape. So I'm always learning something new. And every time I have to learn a new song, I figure that's like practice,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good way to practice.
Yeah, it is a good, I had my fiddle player friend, she's like, she never practices that. Her performances are her practice, So I guess that's
Right.
You get to that point when you're performing enough that's your practice.
Right.
That makes sense?
And I guess kind of wrapping this up into a nice little cast, do you have any advice for young guitarists or young artists that still have the rock star dream?
Don't give up, I guess. They say, that the whole thing of how it happens is you just don't ever give up,
Mm-hmm.
Keep going, keep practicing, I guess you have to really toot your own horn. I was always waiting for someone to discover me, like some that was going to knock at my door, and go, hey. But, you really got to be out there and pushing yourself, and promoting yourself and doing, I guess if you're passionate about it and you're doing it and you're playing out and people are following you, and you got to love it. You got to definitely love what you're doing, so it should go hand in hand. If you love it and you're not giving up, maybe it'll happen one day,
Yeah.
Certainly. I mean, isn't the whole Billie Eilish thing just remarkable? The story of her, like that she had this dream. She was a little girl. She was going to do it. And then it just happened. And it happened in such a big way. It's just remarkable. It's huge, her story.
Right.
And I'm following it carefully because, of course, we all want to see how people handle that kind of thing. Like, that's one of the things. It's like, what would I have done? I kind of thought if I would have gotten really famous or something, I probably would have gone off the deep end. I would have probably ruined my life. So I think maybe I hid from really getting discovered. I hid under a bushel, because I had a little family and I wasn't about to run off and be, fall in love with the drummer. That's what I thought would happen to me, So,
right.
So I'm glad I didn't. And, I stuck with it. Then the husband left. Like, I could have ran off with the drummer after all, but at least it wasn't me.
Well, flipping around that advice to yourself, don't give up and believe in your vision and keep going at it. You said, I'm probably never going to be on a tour bus again and going like that. Even if you rent a van, Algie, and you hop in there and you have your guitar and you go to an adjacent town or city and you go play, that's a tour van.
Oh, really? Okay, then I'm going to do it. I'll do it still. I'll go to Russia. They're asking me to go to Russia. They're like, come to Russia and perform for us. I'm like, okay. Someone set up a bunch of gigs for me. Can you imagine? I'll have to learn more than one song. So never mind. I'm just kidding. But oh dear. Yeah. When you said about when the tour bus, I did like when I hear something and it makes me like tear up, to me, that's like truth being revealed to me. Like that's my definition of like feeling the spirit tell me something is true. So when you said that about the tour bus, I got like all choked up. So maybe it'll still happen.
I think you should go do it. I think everyone should follow their dreams. And the world is driven by people that are super passionate about whatever they do. And we definitely need more people in this world like you that are passionate about guitar and singing and sharing their voice. So don't squander that and go live your life and share your passion with other people. And that's advice for everyone. So with that, I think that's a wholesome message to wrap up on. Really, such a pleasure to talk to you and hear about your journey with guitar and just your outlook on life. It's fantastic.
Thanks. I appreciate that I got to do this very much.
Everything will be okay.